right, it's time for another comic-filled episode of Mr. Nailsin's Wednesday Comics. Another stack here, mostly DC. Well, all DC except one. Marvel has embarked on something that may or may not be special. Anyway, here's the only event series that DC has done in years that's somewhat mildly entertaining. A little more than mildly. I've actually had fun with it. Not really a Titans fan either. Haven't been, if ever, really. I mean, every now and then dive in and stuff like that. But nevertheless, anyway, here you have Titans. Peacemaker shows up. Boy, he looks like that guy on TV. And again, the art team has done well, having to follow. This is Lucas Meyer having to follow Ivan Reyes, which was obviously not going to be easy, but did a good job. And so they open up with a scene that establishes that Peacemaker is very much the James Gunn Peacemaker. There's Giganta. She gets a little action here. Turns into a big old bear. Anyway, a lot of action and fun and stuff. I keep calling him Superboy, but they want to do like Peter Parker and Miles Morales, so John Kent is also Superman. So there's two Supermen. Clark Kent is Superman. John Kent is John Kent. So they do this scene here to have a little emotional scene here where John Kent is trying to save people from the destruction that the big giant bear is doing, and he fears he wasn't fast enough and the people were lost in this building, and he's all scared and upset about it. But then the Flash shows up and says, "Don't worry, man, I got him." And but it hits him, and he breaks down and all this stuff. And okay. Yeah, it was a scary moment, but the Flash took care of it and all that. But this is a guy who's already been through several adventures, and he I didn't read The Dark Crisis, but apparently he was a big part of that. And I don't know, would he break down? This is like all still new to him. And maybe he never came this close to losing people or what. I don't know. Anyway, and then once again he changes into electric blue powers. I'm not sure why they keep doing this. I thought it would have been an interesting thing to give him that, so that there's more of a separation and at least somewhat attempt at an identity for the character separate from his father. Which no matter what you do, he's always going to be a derivative character of Superman. But nevertheless, no, it's just some extra thing he does. Well, anywho, again, art's really good. It's a fine adventure of the world in trouble from this business of Beast Boy being transformed into Starro the Conqueror, or his version of it. And Raven's in love with him and wants to save him, but oh no, Dr. Hate, which I assume would show up in Justice Society, provided it lasts long enough, because he would be, a Lord of Chaos as opposed to Dr. Fate being a Lord of Order, stuff like that. So, oh boy, it's a sad, sudden, shocking ending, and we'll have to see how that turns out. But so far, so good. I come to the same conclusion each time. It's a fun read. And it's just an anomaly in that it's this crossover thing, and yet it works. Apparently, it doesn't sell very well. Gee, I wonder what Stain and Mark, all the other saturation of events, have done to the concept of events. So, yeah. Ooh, well, maybe I'll put that over here. Yeah, that'll work. Continuing on with Sandman, which, again, the spinoffs of the relaunch of Justice Society are so much superior, with the exception of the Green Lantern comic book, which promotes prostitution. So anyway, this is interesting where they do the variant covers, but they still give you the main one. I kind of like that, you know. The ordinary one wasn't available, so I bought that one, you know. But anyway, there you go. Continuing on with just this basic mystery of somebody wanting the secrets of Sandman, and led you to believe it was one guy. It looks like it's someone else entirely. Sandman gets a dose of his own medicine and has all these hallucinations, but also it activates his latent ability to see the future, which is an aspect of the character. And so then, you know, you get a little inkling of the Justice Society there. And I somehow the artwork just oddly fits the story. Again, this was the artist on that Tim Drake series that nobody liked. But here, it just works. I don't know. And, well, oops, spoiled something there. But anyway, the evil Sandman looks cool because he has a look like the Shadow and all that good stuff. And so it's a good read. It's fun. And the only one on par with it as far as Justice Society titles go is Jay Garrick the Flash, which is really good. But this one adds a darker tone to it, and it's rather creepy and all that. And so it's a recommend, but I just don't know that anyone's interested in all this stuff. I mean, the Justice Society series itself is pretty lackluster, you know. So meanwhile, the only good Batman title of the moment is Batman and Robin, which I wouldn't have expected because I haven't really liked the dynamic, for the dynamic duo between Bruce Wayne and his son. Back when Grant Morrison first started a Batman and Robin series, where it was the Dick Grayson Batman and the Damian Wayne. Did I say Tim Drake? Yeah, that wasn't right. Damian Wayne Batman. Robin. It's not Batman yet. It just worked better between the two. The personalities were so different from one another. Whereas here you just have Bruce Wayne seeing a little version of himself. Still, there's stuff there that hits the heartstrings on a father and son relationship and Bruce wanting to do the best he can for his son, and also finding himself in the position of being the father when he was pretty much stunted at the moment of his parents' death and that sort of thing, and it plays out that way. So you could certainly understand his motivations just beyond the obvious, fatherly affection he has for his own son. But anyway, so there's moments that work. It's not bad. It's pretty good. They didn't have the regular artist. This artist tries, but is not really on par with the original artist, and it's a bit jarring at times and doesn't quite land. But overall, the story's fine. They're continuing the mystery, which seems to be connected with the school that Damian is at. He doesn't particularly want to be there, but now that he realizes this might heavily involve the case, and there's more details laid out. He meets this girl who explains a lot of people, the bullies and whatnot, would graduate from this very school and go on to be henchmen for all the main big villains of Gotham and stuff. So it was almost like a henchman school. I'm so sorry. So it already has a history of this sort of thing, and it's all connected. So Damian, otherwise Damian probably would have left the school. There's a teacher saying, he's so smart, he doesn't really belong here, telling Bruce Wayne that, and Bruce is thinking, well, okay, maybe I should let him. He's at a level intellectually to go ahead and start out for college. But the duty of Batman and Robin calls, so Damian has decided to stay with it, and of course this furthers the story and all that. So it's a good book. I'm enjoying it and recommend it and all that. Green Lantern is a good book, story-wise, and but similar problem here. They don't have the regular artist, and the artist that sat in on this one, well, in some instances pretty adequate, but others, well, and it's a bit jarring. But overall, you get the backstory on what happened to the Green Lantern Corps and why there's a quarantine over the Hal Jordan's sector, and and all that. And here it details what appears to be his final mission with Kilowog, and the United Planets are trying to bring Sinestro in, and it appears there was a break in a challenge to Sinestro's power here, and this is where Sinestro ends up stuck on Earth with no powers, desperately wanting to get back to his home world, which of course it appears he has done that previously, but this is all flashback for the fate of Kilowog. It's a massive explosion, similar to Moon Knight. So is Kilowog really dead? I doubt it. The backup story, which should remain a backup story, but it won't. This story about a parent or a child who believes he's the son of Sinestro. Whether he is or not, well, we don't know. But anyway, it's sort of this Oliver Twist story in space. And it works well. And not a fan of the art, but on the other hand, it fits the childlike nature of the story. So in that aspect, works pretty good for it. So anyway, he gets the drop on the big boss and basically takes over the gang and all that. But you got to read his own series. I just like... Same thing with War Journal. I thought that one should have... Maybe the Green Lantern just be a thick book, and you got John Stewart's story and Hal Jordan's story, and then this thing could be a backup there too, which ultimately I am assuming will eventually mean that he will meet Sinestro. But anyway, to be continued in Sinister Sons. So a lot of people wanted Super Sons back, but now you're just going to get Sinister Sons. So I'm not sold enough on it to go chasing after its own book. I would have rathered it remained a backup story. But that appears to be what they do with these backup stories. None of them except for War Journal that sold me on checking that out. But it's like the Superman books, Power Girl and all that. It was so bad. The backup stories. Although I did see previews of the art of Power Girl 1, it looked really good, but story-wise, it didn't seem all that great. If you can do a good backup, and on occasion they do. Some of the like the going back in the past of the Superman family with Lois and John and Clark was pretty good in action, but it didn't last. If they were going to do a spin-off series, that would have been the one. But, well, it didn't happen. So, now there's another new team on action. So, here we go. We're reintroduced to Bizarro. And by the telling of it, I have to assume this is not the Bizarro of the current Superman's world. Or maybe he is. I don't know. But he goes to a magic world of sorcerers and steals their ability to wield magic. And then comes to Earth and attacks Superman. And Superman's like, what the hell is this all about? And doesn't know how to deal with magic. And ultimately, Bizarro's plan is to turn the whole world into Bizarro's, seemingly at sacrificing himself, and everybody starts turning into Bizarros. There's Lois. Oh no, she's a Bizarro. The people are all going crazy, turning into Bizarros, and Superman is stuck with some sort of Joker disease and bursts out laughing at it all. Probably because he's experiencing the opposite of what he's actually feeling in the Bizarro sense, I suppose. So there you go. It's all right. And, it's intriguing, so we'll see where it goes. But, yeah, that's about it. Meanwhile, over at Superman, which I think I missed an issue. So apologies on that. Don't particularly care for this cover at all. But basically, Superman and Marilyn Moonlight, they finally caught up with her, get sent back in the past. And so I guess as a result of being in the past, Marilyn Moonlight appears mortal, except for her horse, which is still a ghost. And, well, there's something Superman's got to deal with. There's an evil time traveler here that likes to mess with people in the cowboy times with his ray guns. And Superman's decided to call him out. And the guy assumes Superman's powers are degraded, but I tricked you. They're not. So, and then Marilyn Moonlight shows up, and apparently by doing this appearance, inspired herself. This apparently is her original self, and there you go. That sets up Marilyn Moonlight. So you get the answer there, and she's this ghostly figure. Kind of taking from the Dark Horse ghost story where she wasn't really a ghost. It was some sort of weird accidental thing, although I'm pretty sure Ghost wasn't the original of that. It sounds familiar, like it's been done before. Anyway, that's the situation with Marilyn Moonlight, which suggests, she's not really dead. She's probably some sort of immortal or whatever. But so there it is, that she's become this urban myth, but not so much a myth around Metropolis. So how about that? That's nice. So there's a problem. Supercorps is under attack, and there's the bad villains who want revenge on Lex Luthor and have decided to force Superman to join them. Oh no. Oh no. Will Superman destroy Lex Luthor to save Metropolis? Well, tune in next time. Here's Shazam. Oddly enough, a Bizarro shows up in here too. I don't know if it was timed to be that. Once again, variant cover gives you the actual cover. But here, you have a guest artist. It's not Dan Mora, but it's a pretty good artist, unlike the case with Green Lantern and stuff like that. But, oh well. So anyway, here's Bizarro Shazam, or Mazah, whatever. And it's an interesting go-by of the captain having to try to figure out how to defeat him. Ultimately, it does. Turns out it was all a trick by Felix Faust. So there you go. How about that? Black Adam shows up, the dinosaurs and everything, and it's got some comical elements that actually work. They're dressed up in their Star Trek outfits and stuff. And all this has to do with the family getting a new home, and they need to sell the old one. And, well, the battle between Black Adam and Shazam, or Captain Shazam, causes trouble. But interestingly enough, the Captain Marvel, is back in his Captain Marvel outfit. Looks more closer to the old one, whereas Black Adam is still pretty much in the suit they redesigned since, I guess, the New 52. Anywho, it's been a good run outside of World's Finest. This is one of the second better one. Teen Titans would be in third place, in my opinion, of being a fairly decent, enjoyable read. However, the team's leaving. It's going to be a new team, so I guess, I don't know. But apparently, they're being called up to deal with this new DC Ultimate line reboot of DC, which they desperately need to do. Basically, they should just follow the templates of books like Shazam, Titans, and most notably World's Finest, which, yes, I will be getting to, on how to handle their line of comics. The idea being, you'll have this ultimate line, and may the best line win. Well, if it rids itself of all the wokeness, yeah, it'll succeed. Just battle on. It may be too late, but, it's possible. It's possible. Anyway, I think this is the final issue of their World's Finest Teen Titans. They're dealing with the bad Titans, a guy who could have been a Titan, but he was bad. And they lure them in to fight a villain who doesn't really exist. And, they get in the trap, and then the Titans beat them. And, it could have been really dangerous, but they managed to recruit Oliver Queen to pretend to be a hostage and all this type of stuff, which quickly makes amends for the problem that Speedy Arrow was experiencing, feeling like he wasn't appreciated by Oliver Queen. But turns out he is. Yeah. And then Robin's convinced, he revealed his secret identity. And this romance between Wonder Girl and Aqualad just ends. I don't know. It just does. I mean, how do you give up that. So anyway, meanwhile, Bumblebee is dating a guy she's decided should be the new Guardian. It's kind of a strange origin story, but well, there you go. So Robin figures his career as Robin's over because he betrayed Batman by revealing himself. Now the Titans all know who Batman really is. Batman's not too happy about it, but he's impressed with his leadership skills and everything. So he gives him a little slap on the wrist, and that's about it. So there they go. They're back together, and Robin can stay, and yay, and off they go. So it was a fun read. It was a little too much teen soap opera stuff, but then, of course, that's expected in the nature of it. So overall, probably not a series for me, even though they're characters I have some interest in. But overall, pretty good. Just nowhere near as good as World's Finest. And Shazam, similar in its childlike nature and stuff, and yet somehow had more of a charm to it. But I guess that's the nature of Shazam. But for some reason, it never seems to land with people overall. They've been trying Shazam over and over, and it never seems to land. I don't know. So, World's Finest, of course, involving Kingdom Come and the like. So it's interesting on that level. And having to turn a Thunder Boy from now Magog to the light side, you know. So it's an all-out battle. Gog, who is one of the ancient gods, wants to wage war against Apocalypse, even though he knows they'll lose, but he feels he's sort of like a space Viking in that he missed his chance to die in a glorious battle to seek his place in Valhalla, or their version of it, I suppose. And that's basically it. He's not, I mean, he claims to care about these people, but hey, they'll have seats in the warrior heaven too, I guess. And that's that. So he's decided to do it. But the Superman and the Batman come together and convince the rest of the Justice League to turn on him along with Magog, and there you go. And he is defeated, but then somebody shows up to give quite the cliffhanger. And oh no, what will happen? Well, we'll find out in issue 24, which may just be the last of this, as Wade and Morrow probably are being recruited for their big reboot, and had heard that they would leave the book at some point. So tough act to follow for whoever takes it over, and I'll give it a look-see, but odds are that's when it starts to fall off. But the approach of an Ultimate line for DC, which they've done before. I saw Shane Davis' show where he was talking about that. He was, of course, the artist on Earth 1 Superman, which was sort of an Ultimate take on the superhero character. So they had those Earth 1 graphic novels they did. There was also All-Star Superman and All-Star Batman and Robin, which never really got finished. But All-Star Superman was actually very, very good. One of the best Superman stories in a long time. And it seemed like that could have been their ultimate one. Of course, they kind of seemingly killed off Superman in that story. But it was that approach. And it never really fully launched anything in total like that. I guess the Earth 1 series would be the closest. But now they're pursuing that, just figuring, well, Marvel's trying it, let's do it too. So I don't know what they'll call it. Maybe they'll go back to All-Star and call it All-Star Justice League or something like that. And then eventually create a line out of that and supplant the regular one, which has basically been spiraling around, not knowing what to do. Speaking of Ultimate Universes, of course, Hickman relaunched the Ultimate Universe, and this culminates in Ultimate Spider-Man #1. And no, they don't give me the other cover in there. But anyway, the story is good. It's just very boring. It's a long-winded introduction. Hey, where's Peter Parker now? After the evil Reed Richards, known as the Maker, denied Peter Parker the spider bite. But life turned out pretty good for him. He's with Mary Jane, and look how hot she still is. That's amazing, huh? And he's got 2 kids with her and all that stuff. And oddly enough, works at the Daily Bugle. So he does that. But then, even oddlier enough, Ben Parker. Now, I didn't really get into the Ultimate Spider-Man story that Brian Michael Bendis did. I do recall that Ben was depicted as some kind of like ponytail wearing hippie or something. So I don't know. Was he involved with the Daily Bugle? I don't know. But here he very much is. He and Jonah are best friends and everything. And Jonah is almost like sees himself as like an uncle to Peter and that sort of thing. So he's too nice. Jonah being an a-hole was the real charm of the character. So, but that's the introduction. In this story, of course, they all believe that Howard Stark turned rogue and basically did a terrorist attack that killed a lot of people. And apparently, Aunt May was one of the victims. And so was Norman Osborn. So, but there's little things here like Matt Murdock being a priest, and well, if you know the Matt Murdock character, that makes a lot of sense. And so there's Harry Osborn. So, gee, I wonder who the Green Goblin will be. Oh, and Wilson Fisk takes over the Daily Bugle, and there's all kind of shenanigans because of that. And here's Green Goblin. So, granted, I like it that it's closer to the ideas of the original Green Goblin. In the Ultimate line, as I understand it, he transformed into a big green monster like the Hulk, which kind of was reminiscent of the old first episode of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. That's what he did. And yeah, I was never a fan of that. Plus, it's borrowing here in this image of more of the movie costume here. But probably derivative Stark tech and stuff like that. So it's a bit more practical, sure. Not really warming to it just yet, but it is a better approach than I think of him, instead of him just turning into a monster, So anyway, there you go. So Peter feels lost, like something's missing in his life. Gee, I wonder what it could be. And so young Tony Stark sends him a message because he's aware of what the Maker did and is trying to fix it. And asks him, hey, do you want this life you were supposed to have? You were robbed, and I can give it to you. And sure enough, there's a spider, and there you go. So all of that just to get to a brief silhouette of Spider-Man in the Spider-Man book. But it's probably the most intriguing and exciting Spider-Man story in years. So probably selling very well just on the anticipation and curiosity about it, and could do a great deal, provided they continue with spinoffs. So they're going to relaunch X-Men after that's been destroyed for years. Probably should just wait for Ultimate X-Men. It'll probably be a lot better. But again, it's very different due to the shenanigans that happened with the story. And it's the kind of thing that, well, this is a story that needs to end. Whereas comic book superhero comics were always about, going on forever, like soap operas and all that. Another interesting thing about it with Aunt May being dead, it reminds me of this what if tale, which is essentially what Ultimate Comics was, of an ongoing what if universe. But there was this what if issue where Aunt May died instead of Ben. And most of the story was the same thing. Peter becomes Spider-Man. He feels guilty. He didn't stop the burglar and all that. And then Aunt May got shot instead of Ben. And ultimately, Ben Parker finds out that Peter he's been Spider-Man, and he breaks down and tells him why and all this stuff. And then Ben Parker decides to help him he kind of becomes like an Alfred to him. And so it's an interesting take. And you're like, well, you could see a series like that going on. I don't know if this is how they'll do it here, but I'm not expecting Ben Parker to die anytime soon because Aunt May's already gone. And that's the take they're going with this. So it's interesting. How long can it last? Well, I don't know. It's strange times in that the original iteration has been so just destroyed. So maybe they'll be more open to this. It's still Peter Parker. And also it's a take on him being married to Mary Jane, which there was, one more day happened and that was the end of their marriage, and it never really recovered from it. I mean, it's like, yeah, once you have the wedding ring on, can't undo it. I don't know. Anyway, it's intriguing. It's interesting. It's kind of a boring read. The art is excellent. But it's got enough intrigue to it to draw one in. So definitely I'll check out the next one and see where they're going with it. But for DC to follow suit with something like this makes a whole lot of sense for where they are, but it's really late in the hour to do something like that. It's something they should have done a long time ago. So we'll see how it plays out. So there you are. There's the comics I've read. I didn't get to them all. There's still another stack of them. But hey, ran out of time. It's time to tape a show. So here's the ones I had ready to go. And check them out should you feel the need to do so. But again, yes, again, thank you for checking out the show. And we'll do it again next time on Mr. Nailsin's Wednesday Comics.